Elon Musk sat in the black leather chair, his eyes staring straight out the window, not in a hurry, but with a deep contemplative look. The light from the overhead lamps illuminated the room, creating an atmosphere that was both formal and cozy. This conference room, with its large glass walls, offered a panoramic view of the city. Outside, cars moved smoothly under the dim yellow glow of streetlights, but inside the room, there was only silence and a space filled with thought. Donald Trump sat across from Elon, his arms crossed, his posture as confident as ever, though his eyes carried a depth that was hard to read. His signature blonde hair was still neatly combed, though no longer as shiny as when he was in the White House. Trump was not easily thrown off by any question, but today, Elon knew he was going to ask him a very different kind of question. Elon looked at Trump, a sense of impatience rising within him, a feeling that, despite being accustomed to challenging conversations, still made him slightly uneasy. Today's question was not about technology, Mars, or bold space projects. It was a more philosophical question, one that Elon felt would make Trump ponder deeply. "Donald," Elon began, his voice calm, but his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "There's a question I've always wanted to ask you, a question that isn't about politics or economics. I've been thinking about it for a while now, and finally, I decided today is the day I'll ask you. What do you think about God?" The room fell silent. Trump looked at Elon, his eyes narrowing slightly as if trying to understand what he was being asked. Elon could feel the shift in the air. It wasn't an easy question, and Trump, the former president, was not someone who would easily open up on such topics. A few seconds passed, and Trump finally broke the silence. He shrugged lightly, leaned back in his chair, his face relaxed but with a touch of contemplation. "Elon, I'm not someone who talks about things like this," Trump replied, his tone cautious. "But I believe in the existence of a force greater than us. I believe that everything in life, whether success or failure, isn't just a coincidence. It all has a purpose, and I don't think that comes from a mindless system." Elon nodded, listening carefully, but a part of him still didn't fully grasp what Trump was saying. He had read countless scientific theories about the universe, the formation of galaxies, and the discoveries humanity had made in the endless world out there. He was someone who believed in logic, in measurable data, and most of all, in what could be explained by science. "But, Donald," Elon continued, his voice carrying a slight challenge, "if everything has a purpose, why can't we explain everything that's happening? Why do we need a supernatural force to explain the universe? I think that what we're doing with technology, with artificial intelligence, will help us understand this world better without needing to rely on a belief in God." Trump sat up straighter, his hands on the table, his eyes locking with Elon's. "Elon, I understand what you're thinking. You're a very scientific, practical person, and I respect that. But do you think that with all this progress, we might be overlooking something more important? Something that science can't explain?" Elon stared into Trump's eyes, then glanced out the window, feeling as though he was being drawn into a conversation with an unpredictable outcome. He had faced thousands of questions about technology and space, but today was different. This was a question that couldn't be answered with equations or physical theories. It was a question about belief, about something no one could definitively prove or deny. "So you believe in God, don't you?" Elon asked, his voice softer now, though still filled with curiosity. Trump paused for a moment, then nodded slightly. "I'm not perfect, but I believe in a greater force. And that's why I always feel a sense of comfort in life, no matter how many challenges I face." Elon stared intently at Trump, his eyes widening as though searching for some kind of answer in the response. He felt as though he was standing between two worlds, one of reason, science, and technology, the other of belief, something he had never truly understood. But today, he felt that Trump's answer might lead him down a different path, where science and belief didn't necessarily have to oppose each other, but could coexist. But before he could think further, Trump continued, his voice calm and thoughtful. "Elon, I may not have all the answers, but I believe that, in the end, those answers will come to us at the right time." Elon remained silent, a wave of thought rising within him. The question he had posed seemed to open a new door in his mind, a place where answers could not simply be based on data and theories. Something greater, something invisible, was lurking in this life, and perhaps only people like Trump could see it. Elon Musk sat silently for a long while, his eyes still fixed on Trump, as if trying to find some sign that, perhaps, just perhaps, belief in God might explain the questions he had yet to answer. He wasn't a man lacking faith, but he believed in logic, in things that could be proven, measured, and understood through science. Therefore, what Trump had said made him think more deeply. Trump remained seated, his expression calm, as if in no hurry, ready to listen to whatever question Elon might ask. Elon took a deep breath, preparing for the next question. "Donald," Elon began, his voice a bit anxious but still determined. "I understand you believe in a great force, but I've always wondered, is belief in God truly necessary in today's modern world? With the groundbreaking inventions we're witnessing, does God still play an important role? Or can we explain everything simply through science?" Trump raised an eyebrow, a bit surprised, but still maintaining his calm demeanor. "Elon, what do you think about the fact that we live in a world that isn't just numbers and theories? You can develop space technology, you can build a new future for humanity on Mars, but one day, you'll have to face the biggest question in life. Why are we here? Why do we exist?" Elon didn't know how to respond. What Trump had just said made him pause and reconsider. How many times in his life had Elon faced big questions, but never had a question made him ponder as much as this one? He wondered whether the presence of God could really help solve these mysteries. "God is not just a great being, Elon," Trump continued, his eyes lighting up as though he were sharing a truth that only a few could understand. "He is the creator of everything you are building. The principles you discover, the theorems you apply, all of them stem from what we cannot fully explain yet. Everything has a purpose, and that's why we search, explore, and develop." Elon looked at Trump with a bewildered expression, but he couldn't deny that there was something compelling in Trump's words. Elon had never thought about the universe, technology, or life in this way. He had always viewed everything through a scientific lens, where everything could be explained by theorems, natural laws. But the presence of belief, of God, might be opening up a world he had never truly dared to explore. "So you're saying everything has a purpose?" Elon asked, his voice tinged with skepticism but also curiosity. "Even when we face unexpected events, disasters, or failures that can't be explained?" Trump didn't answer immediately. He stared at Elon for a long while, seemingly choosing his words carefully. "Yes, Elon. Every event in life, no matter how terrible it may seem, has a reason. And sometimes, it's in those challenges that we find our true purpose." Elon fell silent, his gaze drifting toward the window, where the daylight was slowly fading. Night was falling, and the last rays of the sunset reflected off the glass, creating a mystical scene. During this moment, Elon couldn't help but feel like a part of him was beginning to change. Perhaps what Trump had said wasn't nonsensical, but Elon still couldn't shake the doubt in his mind. "Is God really present in every event?" Elon asked, his voice firm but thoughtful. "I can't understand why terrible things happen. Natural disasters, loss, suffering. Is God really a part of those things?" Trump looked into Elon's eyes, his own eyes seemingly carrying an indescribable depth. "God is not the cause of suffering, Elon. He doesn't create disasters. But in those challenges, we can find the strength to overcome. The important thing is that we are not alone. He's always by our side, whether we realize it or not." Elon remained silent, but this time he felt that Trump's words carried a comfort that he had never experienced before. He was still unsure about believing in God, but what Trump had said made him reconsider the way he viewed the world. He had been so accustomed to explaining everything through science, but perhaps belief in science didn't always have to be at odds. "So, Donald, do you believe that we can truly understand the meaning of life?" Elon asked, his voice filled with contemplation. Trump nodded, his eyes gazing into the distance. "I'm not sure we can understand everything, but I believe that each one of us has a purpose. That purpose might not be clear right away, but over time, through experiences, we will come to recognize it." Elon looked at Trump again, feeling as though he had just found some answer, even if it wasn't entirely clear. But inside, he felt a shift, an awareness that perhaps he had never thought about life, the universe, and belief in this way. He couldn't deny that the presence of God might be an important factor in life, even if he couldn't fully explain it. A long silence enveloped the room. Elon was unaware that the questions he had been asking in his mind were beginning to shake the way he viewed the world. He was an inventor, a person who never stopped exploring, never stopped seeking answers to every problem. But in this moment, the answers seemed no longer to lie in the scientific theories or calculations he had always used to explain the universe. A part of him was changing, trying to face a different truth, a truth he had never paid attention to before. Trump remained silent, but his eyes never left Elon. He understood Elon's unease, knew that belief in a supernatural force was not an easy thing to accept for a scientifically minded person like Elon. But Trump also understood that sometimes it was the great challenges of life that opened people's eyes to new perspectives. Elon, though silent, had a flood of unanswered questions swirling inside him. Could everything in life really be controlled by a supernatural force, or is it just a series of random events we haven't yet grasped? Elon bit his lip, the sense of unease still hanging over him. He had been able to predict the outcomes of countless experiments, solve problems that seemed impossible. But belief in God, that was a question he had never found an answer to for himself. I know what you're thinking, Trump suddenly spoke, as if reading Elon's mind. You feel that everything can be explained by science, that we can understand everything with theorems and theories. But life isn't always something you can reduce to equations, Elon. There are things that can't be measured by formulas. Elon couldn't help but look directly into Trump's eyes. He felt a connection, an intersection between two very different people, yet both shared one thing in common, an unceasing curiosity about the world around them. But if everything can't be explained, then what do we believe in? Elon asked, his voice low but full of contemplation. Are we supposed to live on belief, without scientific foundation? Isn't that what I've always fought against? We can't rely on blind faith without deep understanding. Trump sighed, then tilted his head, looking at Elon. That's what you don't fully understand, Elon. Belief is not something blind. Belief is the light that helps us see what can't be seen with the naked eye. It's not something that replaces science. It's something that complements it. We can't explain everything with reason, but that doesn't mean those things don't exist. So you're saying belief helps us understand what can't be understood? Elon asked again, trying to find the intersection between science and belief that Trump was referring to. Absolutely, Trump nodded. Science can help us explain a lot of things, but there are still things beyond our reach. We can go to Mars, build cities in space, but we will never fully understand the purpose of life unless we believe in something greater than ourselves. Elon felt Trump's answer wash over him. He couldn't deny that Trump had a solid argument. Belief, though it couldn't be measured or proven by data, seemed to address the questions that science couldn't answer. Could it be that belief in a supernatural force is what people need to find comfort in times of suffering? So you think that if we don't believe in God, we lose something? Elon asked, his voice tinged with bitterness. Trump smiled faintly. We lose meaning. Not just in times of trial, but in the happiest moments too. We wouldn't be able to find out why we exist, or why we live the way we do. Belief helps us see the value in every moment, in every action, whether small or great. Elon looked at Trump, feeling as if those words were deeply imprinted in his mind. Throughout his life, he had always sought truth through data, through science. But now, facing Trump, he began to feel that perhaps the truth didn't only lie in calculations, but also in the beliefs we can't see but can feel. Trump didn't say anything more, but his gaze remained fixed on Elon, full of patience. His words had a strange power, keeping Elon trapped in his thoughts. Perhaps, in what Trump had just said, there was something Elon had never considered before. So you think we all have a purpose in this life? Elon asked, almost whispering, as if not wanting to miss any answer from Trump. Trump smiled softly, a warm smile. I'm not sure, Elon, but I believe that we must find that purpose through our actions. And perhaps that's why belief is so important. It's not just comfort. It's the motivation to keep searching. Elon didn't ask any more questions, but inside, a flame of curiosity had been sparked. He felt that he had just entered a world that he had never dared explore before. Questions about God, about belief, about the purpose of life, were no longer distant issues. They were now a part of life that he had to confront for himself. Time seemed to stand still as Elon and Trump sat in the quiet room, where the dim light from the lamps created an atmosphere that was both warm and filled with tension. Elon felt the questions swirling in his mind, but this time, the feeling wasn't just simple curiosity. It was a perplexity that was hard to explain. Everything he had once believed in, every scientific argument he had relied on to explain the world, now seemed to fade into the background in a conversation he hadn't anticipated. It felt as if a door was slowly opening, and he was standing before a world he had never considered before. Donald, Elon asked, his voice dropping, what do you think about death? Have you ever thought about where we go when this journey ends? Trump didn't answer immediately. He sat in silence, his eyes distant, as if looking into a past or a far-off future that only he could see. Elon waited, but nothing happened except the deep, inexplicable silence. Elon's question, though not intended to shock, carried with it a deep yearning. It was a question anyone could ask, but not everyone could answer clearly. Finally, Trump looked up, his eyes filled with both resolve and contemplation. "Elon," he began, "death is an inevitable part of life. It's not the end. It's a part of a greater cycle that we can't fully understand. But I believe that, when we leave this world, we'll encounter something bigger, something that we can't see but always feel in every moment of our lives." Elon didn't say anything, but in his heart, a new thought began to form. He remembered the times he had witnessed failure in his work, the failed projects that couldn't be salvaged, the moments when he thought he might have to give it all up. He had always thought everything could begin and end within the limits of reason, that death was simply the end of a series of events, and there was nothing after it. "Don't you fear death?" Elon asked, the question seeming to challenge, but also full of pure curiosity. Trump chuckled softly, as if the question was nothing unusual. "Fear? No, Elon. I don't fear death, because I believe that death is not an end, but a transition. I believe that every step in this life has a purpose, and death is the next step in that journey. No one can escape it, but I believe we will encounter something beyond our understanding." Elon sat there, unable to shake the feeling of being moved. Trump's words, though not a scientific explanation, carried a mysterious power, something he had never felt from the theories or numbers he had used throughout his life. In that brief moment, Elon felt a strange sensation, as though he had found a grounding point, something solid in a world full of uncertainty. "So how do you see God in all of this?" Elon asked, his voice soft, as though he were beginning to understand something he had never been able to explain before. Trump took a deep breath and looked directly into Elon's eyes. "I believe that God is the guide. He is not the cause of everything in life, but he is the force that helps us overcome every challenge, helps us find purpose. You may not see him, but he is always there, in the difficult moments, in the times when you feel like you can't go on. And when you don't know where to go, belief in God will help you find the way." Elon listened in silence. Trump's words, though not the clear answers to all his questions, opened up a perspective he had never thought about before. He couldn't say he fully believed in God, but he couldn't deny that Trump's words held a strange power, something that couldn't be explained by reason. Trump's answer made Elon less certain of everything he had believed for years. He had always prided himself on his ability to explain everything through science, but now, in the face of Trump's words, he felt like he was standing before a world he had never fully understood, a world where belief and science didn't necessarily have to be at odds, but could blend together, complementing one another. "So, do you think that transition might be something?" Elon asked, his voice full of curiosity. "Will we encounter something, like you said, when life ends?" Trump looked at Elon one more time, his eyes filled with resolve and deep understanding. "I don't know, Elon, but I believe that, at some point, when everything ends, we'll understand. And perhaps that's why we must live a meaningful life. Because, when we face death, we'll realize that everything we've done, every choice we've made, has had a purpose." Elon sat quietly, unable to say anything more. He felt Trump's words like a giant wave crashing into his mind, washing away everything he had once believed about life, science, and death. He couldn't say he understood it all, but he felt that this conversation had opened up a new direction, a new question he had never thought of before. Questions about God, belief, and death. These things were no longer distant issues. They were things he had to confront seriously. And perhaps it was this uncertainty, these unanswered questions, that would become the motivation for him to keep exploring. Elon Musk sat in silence for what seemed like an eternity, his eyes still fixed on Trump, though inside, thousands of thoughts raced, swirling in his mind. The conversation was no longer just about simple theories. A part of him seemed to be changing in that moment when Trump's answers resonated in his mind. Science, those solid theorems, were no longer the sole measure to explain everything. Belief, something Elon had once downplayed and avoided, had now become an element he couldn't ignore. He couldn't help but wonder if it was possible to reconcile these two worlds, belief in God and the search for truth through science. "Donald," Elon said, his voice deep and contemplative, "so if God is the origin of everything, as you say, does that mean that all of our questions can be answered through belief in him?" Or do we still need to seek answers through science to better understand this world? Trump smiled slightly, his eyes lighting up as though he had been waiting for this question. Elon, I don't think belief and science are opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. Science helps us explain the things we can see, but belief helps us face the things we cannot understand with the naked eye. And sometimes, the things we can't explain are the most important. Elon listened in silence, but inside, Trump's words began to sink into his mind. He had lived in the world of logic, of measurable and verifiable data. But could all truth really lie only in what could be measured? Maybe science wasn't the only path to explore the world, and belief could also lead us through doors that had never been opened. You're right. Belief isn't something that replaces science. Elon finally broke the silence. But I still don't understand why we need to believe in something invisible to feel at peace in this life. I've built SpaceX, taken people to Mars, witnessed the miracles of technology. All of it can be explained by scientific theory. But when faced with death, with the big questions about life, I still can't find the answers. Trump paused for a moment, as if contemplating what Elon had just said. Elon, not everything we do can be immediately explained. Science can take you to Mars, can help you understand the universe, but there are questions that science can't answer. And it's in those moments that belief helps you find peace, helps you understand that everything has a reason. Not all questions can be answered right away, but belief in God helps us see the light in those dark moments. Elon couldn't deny that Trump's words were awakening something unfamiliar inside him, something he had never felt before. In the past, Elon had only trusted what he could verify, what no one could dispute. But now, he couldn't avoid the feeling that there was something greater than those theories, something that couldn't simply be explained by reason. Elon sighed, his eyes no longer filled with doubt as before. Is it true, then, that when we can't find the answers, belief in God is the only thing that keeps us going? He asked, his voice now lighter. So when faced with death, we just need to believe that there will be a continuation, even if we don't know what it will be. Trump nodded, his eyes deep and steady as though looking into a future Elon couldn't yet see. Absolutely. We may never know all the answers, but it's the trust in a greater power that helps us overcome fear, that helps us find meaning in this life. Each one of us has questions that can't be answered, but belief helps us live with those questions and face them more boldly. Elon sat quietly, unable to shake the feeling that this conversation had led him to a crossroads he had never considered before. Belief wasn't a denial of science. It might actually be an indispensable part of the journey to find truth. Not everything in life could be explained by equations, and sometimes, the questions we can't answer are the most important ones. Donald, Elon said, his voice no longer full of doubt. I think I understand. Not all questions can be answered right away, and perhaps, belief is the key to overcoming the great challenges of life. It's not something irrational, but a part of existence, helping us feel the connection between everything. Trump smiled, his eyes full of understanding. Exactly, Elon. Belief isn't abandoning reason, it's complementing it. When science can't answer everything, belief helps us find the way. Elon couldn't help but feel a sense of relief, as if a hard shell he had built around himself was slowly melting away. He couldn't say he had fully embraced belief in God, but he felt that life wasn't just about what could be measured, not just about things that could be explained by reason. Belief in a higher power, in God, could be what helps us live a meaningful life, even with all the unanswered questions. The answers aren't found in formulas, but in belief in something greater, in connecting with the unseen, that gives us the strength to overcome every challenge. And though he didn't know what the future would bring, Elon felt that he had stepped into a new chapter in his journey of discovery. The conversation between Elon Musk and Donald Trump ended in a reflective silence. While there was no clear conclusion, Trump's words had helped Elon realize that in this life, belief could be an indispensable part of everyone's journey of exploration. Answers are not always readily available, but it is belief in a greater power that helps us find our way. This conversation not only changed Elon but also opened a new perspective on the relationship between science and belief, between reason and the heart. In a world full of uncertainty, belief may be the only thing that keeps us moving forward on our journey, even when we don't always know the destination.